Welcome to the Life's Best Medicine podcast, where we are finding hope and healing one episode at a time. No appointment needed, no rubber gloves, and no copay. Just a healthy dose of life lessons to help equip you for this wild journey we call life. Hey everyone, this is a friendly reminder that we are here for entertainment purposes only. We may not even be that entertaining at times, but this is not medical advice. Talk to your doctor, check with your healthcare professionals before making any lifestyle changes or medicine changes. What we're talking about is our clinical experience and what we've seen. And so if you really want our advice, you can consult us. You can actually consult me as a doctor, or you can consult my guest and get all your questions answered. But we can't give free medical advice because we can't pay our bills with that, but we can help to educate you a bit and allow you to think a little bit. And always reach out to your medical professional before making any lifestyle changes. Thank you.
Discover a new path to wellness at Arizona Metabolic Health. Dr. Brian Lenzkes offers advanced medicine and personalized care, treating the root causes of your health concerns, not just the symptoms. Whether you're seeking direct primary care, effective diabetes management, or medical weight loss, with a holistic approach, our team is here to guide you every step of the way. Visit ArizonaMetabolicHealth.com today to learn more about our innovative health solutions.
Oh my goodness, it's July already. Where did the year go? Hopefully you're out having fun in the sun, going to the beach, lake, river, wherever you're going for fun. Hopefully you're hanging out with friends and having a good time. The kids are out of school and, we're being more active, hopefully. So to that end, our sponsor here who made this episode possible, health code GETHLTH.com, gethealth.com. Great company, great product, creamy vanilla, chocolate macadamia, shake mix. You can, tons of good nutritional value in there, and you can make it into bars and take it with you on the hikes. You can make it into pudding and have that at night with the kids, whatever. And, just enjoy some good nutrition, and it can taste good too. So we can stay on track for the summer, and then, hopefully we stay on track for the winter that's coming up. So thank you, Health Code, for sponsoring this episode. We greatly appreciate you. And try their berberine too if you haven't tried that. It's a great product for improving metabolic health and gut health. So thank you, Health Code. Hello and welcome back to the Life's Best Medicine podcast. This is a topic that comes up all the time in my practice. A lot of my patients are focused on all of my patients are focused on metabolic health and how to get healthier, and these things we call biohacking. And a lot of us just say, hey, it's nature. How do we best get our body to run efficiently, and how do we get out of the way and heal? So now we have Dr. Carl Rothschild, chiropractic. These guys, I'll tell you, I'm a Western medicine guy. All my chiropractic friends go, Brian, I've been telling you that for 10 years. Like, you're finally getting it. So I just did an interview on breath work, and my chiropractor friends like, finally, Brian, you're breaking into our realm. You're understanding medicine after all these years, after 25 years. So Doc, welcome. It's so good to have you.
I'm thrilled to be here. Listen, I love helping people. I love talking about this stuff. I started in the early 70s. Now, these were hippie days. So I had long hair. I went to a very good university out in New York, but I was rebellious. And my girlfriend and I got latched on to, for whatever reason, to chiropractic. We started researching it. I called chiropractors all over the country. I never found one that wasn't thrilled that he was a chiropractor. And I said, that's what I want. I want to not only be helpful, but I want to wake up every day looking forward tremendously to going to work. And I did that. And that was, I started in 1978 as a chiropractor, and I have pretty much loved it all. I mean, there are occasionally patients that I could do without, but for the most part, I really loved it. At any rate, and then about 27 years ago, so I was 20 years into my practice at that time, when I when I was introduced to red light therapy, of all people that introduced it to the United States, was a professor out of USC, and he was actually a orthopedic surgeon. And for whatever reason, he thought that his fellow colleagues would follow along with him and participate along with the world of red light therapy, because I'm telling you, it works. So he hands me this flashlight of things. It looks like a flashlight. And he goes, it's going to make a big difference in your practice. And of course, at that point, first of all, I'm a New Yorker, so I already know, think I know everything. And I'm 20 years into the practice. So of course, I again think I know everything. He hands me this flashlight and says, shine it on people. I think he's crazy, but I did it. And what a difference. It actually revolutionized my practice. And that's with using equipment that was literally thousands of times weaker than what I'm using, that one we're using now. So at any rate, we were using it. This person came in and said she had this problem. She had literally said she had gum disease. It's like, I don't know. We knew one thing back then. It couldn't hurt. 27 years ago, all we knew is it couldn't hurt. They weren't sure about the mechanism, quite sure what the mechanism was. And we helped her gum disease, and we helped this guy kidney problem. We helped this guy with a ripped Achilles tendon. And I'm not kidding. It's unbelievable. So, that's one thing I wanted to point out. And then we would evolve with lasers and class 1, class 2, class 3. And the reason why I even mentioned that the orthopedic surgeon couldn't get any of his buddies on board is because they wanted to still do the surgery, to be honest with you. They didn't want to avoid the surgery. So I'm telling you, I get it all the time. I was just talking to this guy. His name is Frank. Now, Frank was slated, and Frank is his very famous brother. And Frank was slated for back and shoulder surgery. And after a relatively short period of time, he felt fantastic, calls up his orthopedist and says, I'm not interested in getting the surgery. He doesn't need the surgery. So we don't have a lot of friends in the orthopedic surgeon world, I'll put it that way. At any rate, moving right along, about 14 years ago, it was discovered that there was an element of light that actually helped shrink fat cells. Now, you and I both know there's not too much stuff out there that's as popular as fat loss. I mean, it's huge. And imagine doing it in such a way that you're not damaging anything, you're not killing anything, you're not injecting anything in the body that shouldn't be injected, you're not removing anything in the body. Chiropractors believe in not removing essential tissue. So we're not talking about freezing the fat or boiling the fat or lasering the fat or ultrasonic cavitation or radio frequency, all about destroying fat cells. What they found was that you could actually remove some fat, a goodly amount of fat, without doing any damage to the body. So that's when I said, and they didn't know why that worked either back then, but that's why I decided at that time I was going to get involved with manufacturing. And we were involved with lasers and pads and panels and all that kind of stuff, but we were always covering parts of the body. And then COVID hit. And our practitioner wanted less physical contact between the patient and the provider. And so we developed the bed, because the person can get in and out of bed themselves. I have a bed here in my home. I get in and out of it myself. I'm 72 years old. I get in and out of bed 3 times a week. I don't have a specific ailment, but I don't want any. I'm trying to avoid as many as I can.
Yeah, let's prevent it and not have to try to reverse stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot of, let's change the oil rather than blowing up the engine and changing the engine.
Oh my God, that's the best analogy right there. But do you know how many patients, especially men, they're very hesitant to do anything until they're half dead. So, what we as a practitioners have to do is scare them a little bit so that I will tell you that, in my opinion, a lot of people who don't take care of themselves is because they're not scared enough. They don't know what their life's going to be like when they're 70, 80, whatever years old. And I used to teach a class, will you be dancing when you're 75? I had it at 80 and I gave up on that one. So I said, okay, how about 75? And the truth of the matter is that most people don't take good enough care of themselves to worry about that age. But being you and I, we get exposed to a lot of people who don't take care of themselves. And I would have some people coming into my office. I wouldn't say it out loud, but I would think to myself, please, God, don't let me wind up like that, because they're not taking care of themselves at all, especially with the diabetes and losing parts of your body. And who needs that?
And all that, and they come in and they want you to do an adjustment, then they don't have to change anything in life, and they're healed and everything's great, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, we need their help all the time. So at any rate, so then we're doing manufacturing, then we go to the bed. And but what we've since learned is that when you bathe the whole body, head to toe, front and back, left and right, inside out, all at the same time, that's when you're seeing these amazing results. So we get For example, if I may, can you imagine one of the things when I do live lectures, when people can raise their hands, I will ask, I ask first of all, how many people know about red light therapy? 10 years ago, nobody's raising their hand. 5 years ago, some people are raising their hand. Now, just about everybody's raising their hand. Of course, it depends on the audience, but especially health practitioners in the natural world, they all raise their hand. But another thing that I ask is, I ask them, what would you do if someone called you up and said they're having a heart attack once, if not twice a week, and this has been going on for 12 years? What would you do as a practitioner? If you're an acupuncturist, would you put in different needles? As a chiropractor, would you adjust them a different way? If you're whatever, I mean, nobody had an answer. That's why he was dying. They had implanted a defibrillator in his chest 12, 13 years ago. So every time he died, it would zap him back to life. But he was dying. He was depressed as hell because he used to be an athlete, and now he could barely walk 10 steps without falling apart. So what would you do? So I asked people that, and nobody has an answer for that. And so the practitioner calls me up and says, what should I do? And I said, let's put him in the bed for 5 minutes. Now, normally a dose is 12 minutes. How about just 5 minutes, stay in the room the whole time, and let's see what happens. That patient goes home that night. Now, that was almost 2 years ago. Now, we're talking about hundreds of heart attacks, gets in the bed for 5 minutes, has had more treatment since, no more heart attacks. Not only no more heart attacks, but everything has come back to life. His heart is back to life. His blood pressure is normal. His pulse is normal. His energy is, as he described it, is now through the roof. His erectile dysfunction is gone. And so when he goes to church, the fellow churchgoers come up to him and they go, oh my God, you look totally different. You look like you found life. And he goes, yep, red light therapy. Because that's what he's thinking about. That's what's going on for him. And that's the level of success that he's having. And that's what we're seeing. We don't have a lot of people coming to me that have heart attacks on a regular basis, but we have all kinds of issues. You name it. So Jessica, who had 16 very serious conditions and was taking drugs and injections and doctor visits each month, that was part of her job, just to try to take care of herself. And the money that she had to lay out, just the drops in her eye for the uveitis that she had, cost her copayment was $400. The pressure she had in one eye was 180 when it should be closer to 10 or 12. Mm-hmm. And she was going to go blind otherwise, so she needed the drops. And once a month, they would inject her right in her eye with an anti-inflammatory. And I asked her, what was that like? And I'm going to send you these videos, and you're more than welcome to share it with your audience.
Oh, yeah, I'd love to. Yeah.
They're incredible. I mean, I did not anticipate these things. When Arnett was having the heart attacks, I didn't know what was going to happen. When Jessica has these 16 things, we weren't sure. We just hoped. We know they couldn't hurt, so let's try it. And we just hope for the best. And everything cleared up with this girl. She had 3 forms of psoriasis. She had guttate psoriasis, plaque psoriasis, psoriatic arthritis, including sausage toes, dactylitis. She had the uveitis. She had so many different issues, including Lyme disease and shingles and kidney stones. And it just went on. And she doesn't have any of those things anymore. 20 years of diarrhea, gone. I can't even begin to tell you how amazing that we were about that. So I want to go over the mechanism, but before we do that, I just want to talk to you guys for a second about a few things that are behind me. Right here is my website, trifectalight.com. And I strongly recommend, if you want to know more about red light, that's a good avenue to start off with. And then you go to the Contact Us page. And on the left side of the Contact Us page, it says, find a location nearest you. And we will find a location closest to you. We can't post all the locations for privacy reasons, but we can certainly find a location that's closest to you. And here's what I'm telling you. If you have any doubts, number one, it couldn't hurt. You could not, I've never been a side effect in 50 years studying this. And just use it for 6 visits. That's 12 minutes a dose. That's 3 times a week for 2 weeks. And at the end of the 6 visits, you'll sit down with your practitioner and they'll discuss where you were when you started and where you are now. And if you don't see any difference, one of two things happen. One, they forgot to plug in the bed, which I doubt if that's the problem. Or two, you have this unbelievably rare condition, because we have hardly ever seen that some people who don't respond one way or another. So we're anticipating that in 6 visits, you're going to see a change, including this lady that had severe Parkinson's, horrible, and dementia. So they couldn't deal with her at home, and they were about to put her away. I mean, I'm putting it in a nasty way, but they were going to put her in a nice home, but she was becoming belligerent and endangered herself and others. So they were going to have to put her into this nice home because they can't handle her. But they said for last resort, they're going to use our bed. And she was very severe Parkinson's, so she was stiff as a stone. And getting her in the bed was very difficult. And getting her out of bed, much easier. And so after just one visit, they saw some improvement. But after 2 weeks, first of all, her dementia was improved so dramatically that she can now finally communicate. She's literally lucid. After a month, completely lucid and able to get in and out of bed herself practically. She needs a little assistance, but nothing like was before. Did we anticipate that? We were hoping for it, but I just figured, let's just see what happens. Like, again, you can't hurt anybody if you try. So yeah, I'm loving this stuff. So
yeah, it's amazing. So let's talk a little bit about mechanisms, because I'll tell you, for people listening, I ripped my calf muscle. My chiropractor, hey, Dr. Grant, said, hey, you're going to need surgery. This calf is ripped pretty bad mountain biking. And then I'm like, yeah, let me try it. And I just did red light. I took it easy, red light elevated. And then later on, I ripped my elbow muscle messing around doing wrestling with guys, Anyways, I'm like, I'll just do red light at night, whatever.
Wait. Let's step back. What do you mean wrestling with guys? What are
some
you
old guys
doing at night?
some old guys in Prescott. Yeah, I'm happily married, but some old guys in Prescott, hey, we're doing jujitsu. We're not throwing each other. We're just doing so you're using a lot of strength, just different moves and things like that. Fun time. But then I was like, oh crap, I can't move my elbow. I'm too old for this stuff, I guess. And so
let's go into the mechanism, but I just want to finish up with what's behind me. So we talked about the website. On the right side of that contact us page are two other possibilities. One, you might want to get something like I've done and have it in your home. If you recognize that, first of all, you have more money than health, and you recognize how expensive it is to be sick, it's not a bad idea to get something like this for your home. But more often, we're going to see people getting this for their business. If you want to see a jump in business, and remember, I'm telling you that you're going to save thousands of dollars and not needing staff to have this function in your facility, it's an easy win as far as I'm concerned. So that's two possibilities on the website. Also, my book is right there, and it's called Illuminated Healing. I don't make a dime off of this, but it's a really good study, and so it's well written, because I wrote a good book. My editor and the people that he had with him, they really cleaned it up and made it beautiful. It's really is a good book. And then the last thing before I go into the mechanism is up here is the YouTube channel. Beautiful 120 really well done videos over that. So if you get a chance to go to the YouTube channel, you just go to YouTube and put in Trifecta Light Official. And we call it Trifecta for the triple effect originally of skin, fat, and healing. And that was a try as a winning in a racetrack or whatever. One of my staff members came up with that name. Originally, that was the name of our model. And then, we just went with that for the name of the company as well. So at any rate, now let's talk about the mechanism. So there's two completely different mechanisms. On this side is the mechanism for fat loss. And again, that was only discovered 14 years ago by accident. Of course, most of these things are discovered by accident. And on the other side is all the other stuff, all the healing and everything else. But let's talk about fat loss first. It's only about red light. Now, up until that point, I never used red light. I used only near infrared, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. But this one company emphasized red light and red light only. And so they, emphasizing the red light, they came up with, by accident again, what they found out was that when you expose certain tissue, fat cells, to the red light, it will actually change the wall of the fat cell wall to become more porous. It's temporary. It doesn't damage anything. The terminology they use is micropores that are developed and allow the tissues in the cells, which are all under pressure, some of it to leak out into the surrounding tissue. And then with our protocol, we move that fat away from the fat cells and eventually for use or elimination by the liver. So that's fat loss. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. And you're activating the mitochondria. You're doing a lot of other things also.
Right. But we're going to talk about mitochondria in a second. But
All right.
this is not really about mitochondria per se. Of course, having energy and that stuff will help. But this is something they couldn't figure out why it was working until they realized it was really just about red light and only red light that will change the permeability of the fat cell wall temporarily. So the fat cell wall a day later, the fat cells in general come back to complete health. There's no permanent damage, nothing like that. So that's why it's as safe as can possibly be, and that you don't really need a doctor's license, so to speak, even a health practitioner's license to utilize this. So now let's talk about, I'm a healer from the 1970s. This was what I was all about. And then it was always near infrared. So first I want to talk about the word infrared. There really is no such thing as just infrared. It's either far infrared or near infrared. And far infrared is a fancy way of having deep penetrating heat. And it's fine. As chiropractors, we would use far infrared from time to time to loosen the body up. But the next day, it's not going to have any long-term changes to the body. But near infrared is where the miracles come from. Near infrared is what we used to call cold therapy. It's not that it literally gets cold, but it doesn't get hot. And heat is the enemy. So we're going to try to do everything we can to avoid heat. When you see devices out there that get hot, you know that they're junk. They're usually junk from a country we know that's there's these Chinese knockoffs that are crap. But what can I do? That's our biggest, in the world of industry, there's the crap from China. I'm not saying everything's crap, but most of the stuff that's coming in from China regarding red light is pretty crappy.
Yeah, and they're reverse engineering what you've already worked so hard and patented and worked on, and then they just
they have no laws and no rules.
Yeah.
They can get away with anything. So at any rate, there we are with near infrared. And this near infrared, as I said, we used to call it cold laser. Now we're just going to call it near infrared. And this range of near infrared does these miraculous things. And basically, it's really just about sunlight. So we're all used to sun, and how we know over the hundreds of years that practitioners or people in general would say, go sit out in the sun. It should help your tuberculosis or whatever. And it's not the heat of the sun. There's something else to it. And over the years, they've studied sunlight. What we've done is we've taken elements of sunlight, only the healthy ones, not UV light, not blue light, which screws up the circadian rhythm, just red and near infrared. We magnify them many times and drive it into the person's body. From the near infrared point of view and a little bit of the red, what we're able to do and see is the stimulation of mitochondria, as you alluded to in a moment ago. But let's talk about mitochondria. Why is it so significant? Well, the mitochondria is the powerhouse of your body. It's the reason why you breathe oxygen and eat food. It's going to stimulate and the production of a molecule that is critical. We call this molecule the energy currency of the body, and it's called ATP. And that ATP, if you have the right amount, will mean you'll live better. And if you have less than the perfect amount, which is caused by what they call mitochondrial dysfunction, if you have less than the perfect amount of ATP, it will eventually lead to disease and eventually to death. And they anticipate that that's going to happen to everybody as you get older, but it doesn't have to. That's why often this bed is called the fountain of youth. What we can do is bring the ATP production back to normal. So how does that work? I'm telling you, the mitochondria is unbelievably important to your body. There's so much mitochondria in the person's body that mitochondrial tissue makes up 10% of a human's adult's body weight. Now that's got to sink in, because think about it. You're made up of bone, and you're made up of fluid, and you're made up of all this stuff. And yet and still, the mitochondria make up 10% of your body weight. They used to think when I went to school that there was one mitochondria in every cell, and that's not true. There are cells that have thousands of mitochondria in it, especially depending upon the energy demands, like the heart, which has over 5,000 mitochondria in each cell. So now getting back to this. So we got cells. Every cell has thousands, sometimes thousands of mitochondria. And we know that there is in the mitochondria a chromophore, or a series of chromophores. A chromophore is something that's stimulated by the sun. Not every cell in your body is stimulated by the sun, but the chromophores are. And one chromophore that you have in your mitochondria is called cytochrome C oxidase. Now, as we know, anything that ends in ASE is an enzyme. So this cytochrome C oxidase, which is a chromophore, is what gets stimulated directly by this near infrared that we're driving into the person's body, or by the sun in a much weaker manner. And now what we're doing is we're stimulating the mitochondria to come back to life, come back to health. And that's why it's so global. That's why there's not a tissue in your body that could not, it's why almost every tissue in your body will respond beautifully to this type of technology. So let me give you an example. Leber's hereditary optic neuropathy. I had never heard of that before. So this guy is going to die. I'm not die. This guy is going to go blind because of his LHON. Now, LHON is like a multiple sclerosis of the retina. It's eating away at the tissue. And he's destined to go blind. He surrendered to the fact, but he was willing to try red light therapy. And what we do with multiple sclerosis, as we did with him, is we halt the progression. The tissue that's been eaten away already, it's probably too late. But if we can halt the progression, so the sooner we can get somebody with MS, the sooner we can get somebody with LHON, the sooner we can get almost any condition with diabetes, anything like that, get the person in the bed earlier rather than later. And maybe we can avoid some of the really horrific things that can happen to somebody down the road. Any questions?
No, I agree 100%. I was just having this discussion with patients, last night. We do every 2 weeks, we do a Zoom meeting. And so I was talking about some changes that come with Parkinson's and dementia. And with Parkinson's, one of my patients was saying, well, what's the point? Like, once you have advanced Parkinson's, there's not a heck of a lot. You're not going to be able to reverse a lot of the damage that's there, and they're always going to have these problems. I said, yeah, but Parkinson's, for 10 years before you get the diagnosis, a majority of people have chronic constipation. And if you look at their gut microbiome, they have a specific gut microbiome. And that's why I've been so interested in red light, saying, okay, how much of an effect is it going to have on the gut microbiome? So if we fix, like we said, the brain's not detached from the body. So the chronic stress, chronic inflammation, all that causes the gut to act funny, right? And if your gut's acting funny, it causes your brain to say something's wrong. So we get into this sympathetic overdrive, and so there's so much to it. But I'm just curious as to, because we know a lot of these conditions are, and there's some data showing that if you have leaky gut, you also have leaky brain. So these things that get in your brain, and these toxins that cause more problems. So you say, well, if these things are inflammatory in nature, which most of our chronic diseases we're treating are, ones that we intervene to decrease that inflammation, right? To increase blood flow, to make the mitochondria more efficient, because a lot of the inflammation we're having is because the mitochondria are overwhelmed by eating cookies and donuts all day.
Well, there's not a lot of people that know as much about fat loss and eating in general as I do. And the reason why I say that is that when I was a preteen, this is about 11 or 12 years old, my mother became an executive of Weight Watchers. And that might sound like fun, but it wasn't. I mean, we had bean sprouts instead of spaghetti, for example. So I never had a good meal living at home again, but I learned a lot. And I also learned a lot throughout the 50 years of schooling and being a chiropractor and working with diet and nutrition. And so, this is something that we work with people all the time. Imagine if somebody loses to 30, 40 pounds, how much better their spine is going to be. So from a simple point of view, musculoskeletal wise, that weight loss would be very helpful. Never mind all the other things. And I want you to know that that's not the end all or be all. My father was never the right weight. He was always probably 40 pounds overweight or more. And he died at 99 years old without any ailment. He just was old. I'm not kidding. He didn't have any of the dementia, he didn't have anything. So you can be skinny and sick as a dog, and you can be fat and not necessarily sick. It really has to do. We could talk about this another time. It has to do with
it's interesting is that those are things we see. So I see people of Indian and Asian descent. They get diabetes before they can get fat. A lot of us Caucasians. I have a lady. She's 320 pounds. Her insulin's normal. Her inflammatory markers, everything's normal, and it's all subcutaneous fat. But she has very low visceral fat, the fat around the organs.
Yeah.
So it depends where you're storing your fat too, and hormones and menopause, all these other things, stress, all these things make a huge difference. So trying just to change the diet without working on stress, sleep, all these other factors, chronic pain, all these things throw us into a sympathetic overdrive.
So what I'm saying is that whether you're a practitioner or not, you might incorporate full body red light therapy. I don't have an objection to the mask or helmet or any of that stuff. In fact, I started off the conversation saying that we used to make all that stuff. We made masks and pads, and we still do. But we didn't get the kind of results with any of that stuff. I had the most advanced lasers. I did all that stuff. But when you're doing parts of the body, you're not going to see the miracles that you'll get with full body. So we got the fat loss. We got the all these different elements of healing. So what I'm saying is give it a shot. Go to the website. We'll find the closest location to you. Hopefully we have one close enough to you. And try it for 6 visits. And that's I'm not in practice, so I'm not inviting you to my office. None of this conversation, including my book, is about me making money or anything like that, except I do manufacture that bed. So I do recommend you get it, but I'm not totally selfish about this. I'm telling you, it will change your life. We have one guy, his name is Jay Campbell. He's a big time podcaster. He's got a large audience. And he introduced, I was on his podcast, and he interviewed me and all that stuff. And he got so intrigued, he bought one of these beds for his home. And I interviewed him several months later, and he was one that coined this phrase that we use a lot, is that it's absolutely life altering. We're not playing games anymore. We're going to change the person's life. So when they get in the bed, they don't wear the goggles. They keep their eyes closed. Remember I talked about Jessica, who she had uveitis, but almost anything in the eye, including macular degeneration, macular, edema, we talked about uveitis, glaucoma, cataracts, floaters. Floaters are a slam dunk. Everyone looks at it. It's kind of, in some cases, just an annoying, like gnats that are going by. But we had one guy, his floaters were so severe that it really blocked his vision. And within 2 weeks, usually they're gone. They're gone. So at any rate, I have tons of stories that I'm not going to drive you crazy. I'm going to send you those videos. As you can see, I'm a little passionate about this. I'm in love with this stuff. I think I showed you this mug already, right? Did I already show this?
Get in the bed. Yeah. I might get one of those for my wife.
That's my, well, okay, but it's a different attitude.
All right.
But at any rate, so I love this stuff, and I'm very passionate about it. My wife has a habit trying to do this to me. What that means is that when we're in an event,
yeah, I got the same elbow. Yeah, I get the same thing.
Just not talk about red light therapy. Just one time, don't talk about it.
That's like, yeah, that's funny because I'll be somewhere. My wife, someone will ask me, "Hey, what about metabolic health, insulin resistant diabetes?" And I look at my wife like, "Can I start?" Because once I start, I can't stop. I'm like you with the red light. And when you start seeing the benefits, I think that's we both went in as healers, and you go, "Gosh, if I can help someone and figure out what's gonna do." And I'm, I was thinking while you were talking, and you could correct me if I'm wrong because you probably know more about this than me, but when you're talking about red light causing the fat cells to become more porous, that to me means that you're able to oxidize the fat better. It allows it to, because a lot of people have fat cells that are so hypertrophied that they can't lose weight. So now we have these drugs like the GLP-1s that came out that everyone's doing, where the precursor cells that could either go to fat cells or muscle cell become fat cells. Now you have a bunch of half empty fat cells, and now you can oxidize the fat a little better. So you initially have weight loss, but you're a lifetime hostage here. So I think in effect, what you're saying with red light is that you're having that effect without causing the multiplication of fat cells. You're trying to make those fat cells that are stretched out be able to relax a little bit and start oxidizing the fat within them. Am I understanding that correctly?
Absolutely. But we're not only oxidizing, we're actually literally moving the fat through the lymphatic system to the liver, sometimes for elimination, and sometimes in that case, yes, for actually utilization. But originally, when this first was noticed about fat loss, they thought it melted the fat, or as you say, processed the fat or anything. So my first company was called LipoMelt because we thought it melted the fat. Well, it turns out it's not, and I had to stop using that name, and that's why we switched over to Trifecta Light. But they learned that it wasn't about liquefying the fat or anything like that. At any rate, with that said, and it works, but nothing works by itself. I like taking care of myself. So I exercise 3 times a week minimum. I eat smart. I try to limit, and if any of you want to do a weight loss program, you've got to limit, not eliminate necessarily, but limit starchy carbohydrates, simple sugars, sodas, and alcohol. Now, if you can eliminate those things, God bless you. And I have pretty much, so I never smoked. I never drink alcohol. And I try not to put anything in my body that's going to do me in. I want to Because, and again, it's not that I was the most disciplined person in the world. I was scared. I can't use the term, but I was scared out of my mind with people that I noticed that weren't taking care of themselves. And I just said to myself, I don't want that happening to me. I want to introduce one other thing, and that's Google Scholar. If you have any doubt or any questions about learning more about this stuff, if you go to Google Scholar, which is scholar.google.com, and put in the word or phrase red light therapy, don't be surprised if you see over 3.5 million entries. That's double-blind studies, research papers, articles, all kinds of stuff about red light therapy. And then filter it down to whatever else you want to learn about lupus, you want to learn whatever. So people saying, well, has it been studied? Yes. You know, we get people who are extreme doubters. I don't blame them. It sounds like snake oil to some people. You see, it helps everything and it helps all the tissues. Okay, don't believe me, but go to Google Scholar or try 6 visits. You have nothing it can't hurt. It's not like me sitting there going, you know, maybe we'll rip out one of your kidneys and see if that'll make a difference. That's not what we're talking about here. It's safe as can be.
Well, and the reality too is you've already sold the machine to these guys, right? You've already sold the machine. So it's not like you're going to make more money having more people going to these guys. It's just going to make your customers happier too, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So you're okay, take it. Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure. So we talked about Google Scholar. We talked about bathing the whole body at the same time. We talked about Arnett with the heart attacks and Jessica, and I'm going to be sending those videos to you. Check out the website, the book, blah, blah, all that stuff. But learn as much as you can. I know I'm crazy here, and I apologize if I come across a little strong. But if you are not using full body red light therapy in your life, I think it's a mistake. In your business, I think it's a mistake. You want to, and you don't have to be a health practitioner to incorporate. So it could be the whole fitness industry. It could be anybody that deals with someone, you know, with the body in the aesthetic world. I mean, skin, we had this lady that had 3rd-degree burns. I mean, it was severe and ugly and disgusting. And she was guaranteed by the wound center to have 6 months of pain, 6 months of drugs, and permanent scarring. Well, by the end of the 2nd week, the pain was completely gone. And by the end of the 3rd week, it was completely gone. No scarring, no nothing. So for the skin, it's unbelievable. And I already talked about psoriasis, and I talked about anything to do with the skin, eczema. If you're not trying red light, it's a mistake. And I don't object to masks and helmets, but if you want the real fountain of youth kind of effect, you want full body. And you want lights that don't get hot. You want lights that come right as close to your body as you possibly can.
All right. And then I know you're going to have a wise guy answer, but when's the best time to do red light if you have it at your house? Like, should we not do it at night? Was that going to activate so we don't sleep if we do it at night after we get out of our shower? Or should we do it first thing in the morning? You know, if people have those units that they're standing in front of.
I don't think it matters.
Okay.
And even if it did, it's about consistency. That's more important. So if it's to your convenience. So let's say you go, oh, you know, it's probably better to do such and such a time, but I can never just do it 3 times a week. We haven't seen huge. I know people who talk about the beautiful sun at the earliest in the day. Yeah, but the light, we don't need to worry about that. This light is going to be the same consistency, whether it's morning, afternoon, or night. But I do want to mention something to you, and this is athletes. If you're an athlete and you're serious and you want to perform better, you need to get in the bed before you do your activity, and you will perform much better. I had this one guy call me up. I mean, it's the reason why we're in the NBA. It's the reason why we're with the Olympic Training Center and many athletic facilities, including boxing centers. There's a huge center in Miami called Boxer, B-O-X-R. It's huge. And they have our bed. And so a boxer is a very unique type of athlete because, you know, if you play tennis, you might get injured. If you play basketball, you might get injured. But if you're a boxer, winner or loser, you're going to get injured. So they get in the bed for a month prior to their bout every day. And then they get in again a month or 2 after every day to recover. So it's beautiful performance-wise. You get in the bed before your activity and then get in the bed again after the activity. And they do it all day long. So you don't have to do it. You know, it doesn't matter. It's more about consistency. Like, people worry about these things, but it's most important that you do this for the rest of your life, that you take care of yourself for the rest of your life, that you eat smart for the rest of your life. That's why I hate the word diet, because a diet means usually there's a beginning and an end to a diet.
Yeah.
And when the diet ends, you're going to put all that weight back on. There's no end to a smart diet program. So instead of using diet, we call it life-changing, lifetime changes. That's what you want. And incorporate it into your life for the rest of your life. So we don't want stringent, ridiculous diets. I mean, anyone's going to lose weight if you stop eating, but you won't stay at that. What's better to do is to be what we call calorically neutral and stay away from those 4 components I told you before. And those are important. But I mean, there's other factors involved. You know, you can spend a goodly part of an hour talking about all the things you shouldn't do in your life. You'll drive yourself crazy, whether it's, you know, the poisons in our food and our water and our air, or you can just build up your immune system and build up your body as much as you can, so that someone like, you know, why didn't everybody succumb to COVID? Well, it's because they were already healthier than the ones that really were done in already were sickly. I used to teach a class which was not easy to teach when I started in the 70s, which was sick people get sick and healthy people stay that way. It didn't go over so easy. And I was not skilled enough as a speaker to, people just thought I was an idiot. But it's kind of true. You know, if you're sickly, you're going to succumb to a lot of different things that a healthy person won't. But
it's just it's the same thing as these guys who work out every day and they're super fit and they're like, look, I eat cookies and donuts all the time. Look at me, I'm fine. Well, until you injure yourself, and you know, it catches up with you at some point. You lose your muscle mass, you get older. So yeah, but you know, most people who are on that path of health, they say, okay, I'm going to do what I can. I'm not going to do things to ruin my health. I'm not going to drink excessively. But then you have the people who are drinking 3 shots of tequila every night, but then they're taking the gut microbiome stuff. And you're like, well, you're probably not really helping yourself, right? Smoking 2 packs a day and then, you know, going for a jog or whatever. You know, there's things you go, okay, let's minimize the damage. Like for instance, with the red light, if someone's eating McDonald's every day and French fries and Cokes and they're coming to the red light, they're not going to get the benefit as someone who's making the lifestyle changes at the same time, right?
Exactly. You go to your health practitioner that you trust and ask them, you know, what is the smart thing to do to include? You want smart eating, which is calorically neutral. That means you're not starving yourself, but also you're not overeating. If you overeat, you're going to gain fat. That's it. And if you don't overeat, but not, you know, if you're putting somebody on a diet that's severe, they won't stick with it. You know,
and they're going to lose muscle mass, and your brain's going to tell you this isn't good. Store fat. This isn't good.
And
so all those things like Weight
than
Watchers, right? Yeah. Now they're giving everyone Ozempic now, right? So clearly there's issues.
I can't talk about drugs. I get in trouble for that one.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Chiropractors got themselves in trouble anyhow because we were so anti-drugs and you know. But that's where I'm at. But that's from me. I do guide my patients, but you know, even here we are in California, where they're a little bit more health conscious than many other states. And yet, and still, if you open up their medicine cabinet, it's filled with all kinds of drugs. Mine's got none in it, but that's just me. I'm not putting anything in my body that I don't believe is healthy.
And we always do that. We discuss the risks and the benefits, and you say, well, this is going to have side, like, you know, on those commercials we see on TV, they say all the people are singing and dancing, having a great time. Like, oh, by the way, you can go blind. You're going to have diarrhea all the time, and you can die, and you'll have a heart attack. But, you know, your skin's going to look nice. It's like
I mean, and that's what we're going up against, and that's what I've been going up against for 47 years, is unbelievable commercials. I mean, imagine how skilled you have to be to create a commercial that will convince people to do something, but embedded in that commercial is how you're going to die from that thing. It's like, wow, they've got skills that, you know, I don't have. They have the money to be able to promote this stuff. Whatever. And I don't want to get myself in any more trouble with the pharmaceutical.
Yeah, I don't think they like me either. We're in the same boat, I think, Doc. So yeah, and so you say, well, if I could minimize your risk. So I like to talk a little bit more about Parkinson's, dementia. Do you see benefits from pain? Yeah, I know you've given some anecdotal. Is it do you see a general improvement, or do you see some people really respond well and some people don't respond at all? Or what do you in practicality, what do you see?
Everybody responds, but it depends. Like we had this one guy, I mean, the only word I could use is tragic. His Parkinson's was so severe, it was pathetic. And he was on a very severe drug that gave him 20 minutes a day of as close to normalcy as possible. So imagine he's having a glimpse of what his life could be, and then he's back to horrible. And so what he found, using our bed, is that 20 minutes became 30 minutes, and then 40 minutes, and then 1 hour, and then 2 hours. but he's never going to be a, a marathon runner or anything like that. But he's just, what we're looking for is improving your quality of life. And maybe by doing it without something that had, imagine what I'm telling you, has zero side effects. In fact, that's something I want to bring up. Zero side effects. And that's true for 50 years. They've done the studies, never seen a recorded side effect. But I do want to talk to you about contraindications. And that means who should not use the bed. And the only reason not to use a bed is a legal reason, not a real reason. And that's a pregnant woman. Because if that baby comes out anything other than perfect, having nothing to do with the bed, they're going to want to blame somebody. And I've instructed all of our people, don't be in that neighborhood. Don't let me give them that chance to go after you, even though you had nothing to do with that. So we don't touch pregnant women for that very reason, that if that kid comes out anything other than perfect, they can't come after us. Now, the day after she delivers, you want to get her in the bed right away, especially after C-section. The response after C-section are absolutely remarkable after any surgery. So the
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you.
is,
Post-op, like post-op total knee replacement, total hip replacement. Do you wait a little while afterwards,
no,
or you just right away you hit it? So you're not worried about increased bleeding risk or anything like that
no, quite
initially
the
with increased
opposite.
blood flow.
So we're going to see healing. And I mean, I don't know how many people are going to be willing to come bleeding. So I used to be working with our lasers in a plastic surgery center. This was way before we had beds. And I wish we had bed because it made my life much easier. So we're actually lasering over the wound. So the day after the tummy tuck, now this is a severe surgery, and they're cutting them open from one side all the way over to the other. They're bleeding, they're staples, they're a mess, and we're lasering right over it because that'll accelerate the healing dramatically. And the end result scarring will be greatly reduced as well. So getting somebody in the bed right after surgery is not a bad idea. But my question to you is, why isn't this bed in every OR, in every wound center, in every hospital? Why would you think it's not? And the answer is, this light is a revenue killer. They're going to be needing a lot less surgery, a lot less hospital stays, and less drugs. Who wants that in this country? Who wants that?
Yeah, it's a funny thing. It's the irony of some of these things. I've had a patient was scheduled for a total knee replacement, miserable, poorly controlled diabetes. We got her on, cut out the processed food and sugar, and they give up her tortillas at night, stop drinking soda. And this lady, in 6 weeks, we dropped her A1C, I think like 6 points or something ridiculous like that.
Wow.
And I go, okay, I'm gonna clear you for surgery. You made it. And she goes, my knee doesn't hurt. The orthopedic surgeon comes like, Brian, you're killing me here. I had a surgery schedule. Now we have to cancel. I'm like, well, sorry, man, but she's doing great. She's hiking the bleachers. But you say, let's combine what we're doing with red light, and how do we get those mitochondria? Because really, it's all coming back to mitochondrial health and decreasing inflammation and
Exactly.
free radicals or whatever. So I had something that popped in my head I wanted to ask you.
I think that's a perfect term, and I'm going to write that one down. Mitochondrial health, because the term I use is mitochondrial, just function, but I like that.
Well, that's what we're seeing with fasting. You rest the mitochondria a little bit, they do a little better. You rest the gut a little bit, they do a little bit better. And so, throwing these all things, I would love to ask your if you have one thing that was from a practical standpoint, I was curious about. Have you ever checked sugar level? Like if someone has a continuous glucose monitor, they lay in the machine for 12 minutes and see what happens to their sugars or to ketone levels when they're laying in the red light.
We have, and phenomenal results. So we've got people needing a lot less insulin after a 2-week dose. So it's a 12-minute dose. Each dose is 12 minutes. That's 6 visits, 3 times a week for 2 weeks. They'll see a much more normalizing of all their chemistries. And on top of that, their need for insulin will drop significantly.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
It needs to be maintained. You can't do this and then get away with screwing up your body again.
Well, do you feel like someone could do 6 visits and then do it once a month or once every 2 weeks, or do you think they're better off being as consistent as possible in the long run?
If you're young and healthy and it's a short term, like I just sprained something, broke something, whatever, that could be done. And then we'll see you a couple of times a month probably. But if you're an old fart like me, I'm in my 70s, to maintain that, I like 3 times a week as a maintenance. And so a lot of our facilities, they use a program called Club Bed. And so you go there and it's like a gym membership and you have easy access to the bed. And remember, the bed's so simple, you get in and out of it. So you don't need any staff, you don't need any direction after that first visit where they show you where the on off button is, and you get in the bed and then you get out of the bed when you're done. And so to do that, a lot of our people go in this club bed program where it's much less money per visit, but you're signing up like a gym membership for a 1 year contract. And after a few months, you start realizing, wow, this has made a big change in my life. But
Yeah, and for
I'm
us,
a big fan of maintenance, and maintenance could be anywhere from once a month to 3 times a week.
awesome. And then a lot of you, anything you do, like if you say exercise, they're gonna exercise for 4 hours one day, then they don't exercise forever. So do you think 12 minutes is that's the premium dose? Like you go, okay, do 12 minutes, you're good. Do that like 3 times a week rather than 45 minutes one day, for instance. Are you better off just spreading those doses out over time?
Oh, absolutely. First of all, 45 minutes once a week is not nearly as good as even 5 minutes 3 times a week, because it's doses got to be spread over a period of time. That's number one. Number two, anything really much after 12 minutes is just a waste of time and money. You're not really going to see any change. So 13 minutes doesn't give you better results than 12 minutes. So 12 minutes is the optimum. And we are seeing most things happen within 5 to 7 minutes, and then we lock in that dose with a 12-minute dose. We lock in that results with a 12-minute dose, and the results are really very good. But anyhow, I just want to make sure you understand. I'm going to send you these videos and a few other links and stuff that you can share with your audience, and I think they're going to get a real kick out of it. If you haven't done full body red light therapy, you want the highest medical grade devices possible. And that's what we have here with the Trifecta Light.
Awesome. Yeah, and one other question, because it was bugging me also, diabetic neuropathy or diabetic ulcers. Do you see help in healing of those ulcers and people? Yeah.
We have some, I don't have it on the website because they're disgusting, but we have pictures of diabetic ulcers, which if you haven't seen them,
It's horrific. Yeah.
yourself get to that point, you're a mess. So we need to, first of all, stabilize the diabetes. But the neuropathy, and some of these people can't walk, and now they're walking. We have people with horrible neuropathy. So the first thing that they'll tell you is that they can't even allow the blanket over their feet because it's just that pressure is giving them problems. They can't walk over uneven surfaces, especially a gravelly road or something like that. And within 2 weeks, that's 3 times a week for 2 weeks, it will stabilize much better. Now, then they're going to need a lifetime of care. That's just the way it is. If you're looking at healthcare as an injection and it's done, that's not how this works. Real healthcare is a lifetime endeavor. From this day on, if you haven't already been doing it, from this day on, start taking care of yourself. And it's till the end. Chiropractors, me in particular, I liken well-being and health like a candle that burns bright all the way from the beginning, all the way to the bottom and ends, and sputters out and dies. Not like what most people, or at least many people have, which is they're invalids in the last 20 years of their life. They can't function, they can't get around, they can't feed themselves, and they can't wipe themselves. And that's the last thing I want in my
And the cost to your family, the cost to society, all those things that are so critical. So the ideal is to have your health span equal your lifespan, right? You don't want your lifespan to be long and your health span is short and you're laying there in a bed all day staring at the walls, right?
You keep coming up with these beautiful phrases.
Oh, look, write them down, Doc.
Span, life span.
Yeah, that's not my term. I've heard those before, but you want them to. I never hear. Like, you want those to equal. Like you want your health span to have fun, and you drop dead one day and go, okay, I'm ready for the next.
I'm not sure I'm going to quote that one. Hey, have fun and drop dead one day. That doesn't.
Yeah, better than suffering for 6 months, and be languishing away with ulcers and sores, and that's why I hated diabetes, And so, also, I just quickly, is there more benefit of doing cold plunges, sauna, things like that in conjunction with red light therapy? Do you have any feelings on that based on your experience?
Oh, absolutely. It's not about any one thing, but what we find is the red light, everybody's going to differ. If you're a cold plunge fanatic, you're going to say that's the centerpiece. What we have found is the bed becomes the centerpiece, and then we can add all these other beautiful things. If you're an acupuncturist, don't stop doing acupuncture, or a chiropractor. You're going to continue doing this. This is an add-on, not an instead of. And so you're going to add this to your practice. But it's so easy. Before the bed ever arrives, you'll have dozens of people ready and willing and wanting to get in the bed. And then remember, all of them, it's 6 visits. That's the minimum I suggest, that everyone try it for 6 visits. And you can give them a huge price discount or whatever,
Mhm.
just so you, as the practitioner, will become as crazy as I am. Because right now, there's nobody in the world that's going to be sitting next to me at any event that has an issue that I'm not thinking, you gotta get in the bed. You gotta get in the bed. And I didn't
Yeah,
really
awesome.
feel this way about other things I've done in my career, but this is a big one. Get in the damn bed. And then after 6 visits, then you can talk to me. You'll absolutely love it. You will.
Awesome. Yeah, it's great. And I was going to ask you just one last thing. Do you find that people adjust better if they're doing the red light first and then they get an adjustment, or do you adjust them and then do the red light afterwards? Is there one that works better?
First of all, I haven't been in practice for a few years, so I have not had the bed. I got to be honest. I've
Yeah.
never treated anyone chiropractically since the bed came out because I've been retired from seeing patients for,
Hmm.
I've been too busy. I wouldn't be able to give them my patients would not get a fair deal, me being too obsessed with all this other stuff. So I sold my practice. But if you're asking me what I think, of course, I think the person would adjust better, but it's always lights first. If any of you want to know what should be first, lights first before the adjustment, before the racquetball game, before anything, lights first, because you want to get in this bed without a flushed body. You don't want to have more blood on the surface, which would block the penetration of the light. So you do lights first, and then you can do anything after. That's smart. So do I have an objection to cold plunge? No. I was raised a little differently. My mentor never said nothing about shocking the body. So I don't, that's not the route that I go, but I've seen people loving it. So I'm not going to object to it. I just was at a house. I don't know if you can believe this. This house is $177 million. It's 40,000 square feet in prime real estate overlooking the Bel Air Country Club. And it's unbelievable. And they have more than one cold plunge there. They have our bed there. They have a whole wellness center. They've got all kinds of stuff there. But yeah, I mean, chiropractors love toys. If you go to your average chiropractor's office, they're going to find all kinds of stuff. So I was dealing with all kinds of healing frequencies, and so you have the EMF mats and all these different things. And I didn't have cold plunge, but I had hyperbaric chamber. I had all these different things, and they're fun. They're toys. At the time, I thought they were great, but now we hit the world of miracles with the bed. So all these other things are nice add-ons, but if you don't have, you need the bed as your centerpiece, and then all these other things will flow around it. And with that,
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. So Doc, I got to ask you, what's life's best medicine for you besides red light? Because I already know that's the first answer.
say the
Where do you,
question again.
what's life's best medicine for you? Where do you go to when things are hard? What gets you moving? What gets you motivated out of bed? What do you tell people matters in life? Like if you can give a word of wisdom for people listening.
My word of wisdom is to take care of yourself. So I I'm a little bit of a fanatic, so I never drink, I never smoke, I never do anything and put anything in my body that I think could do me harm. I don't put in preservatives. I've never eat, but maybe I'm the wrong. It's not difficult for me because it's not like I'm asking for awards for this, but I got scared enough that what I don't want out of your life. So what I suggest is go volunteer at a senior living center and see what you don't want to wind up like. Go check it out and get scared like I did. And it was ingrained into me so much so, not being the
Mm.
most disciplined person. I told you, my father was never less than 50 pounds overweight. But he didn't smoke, he didn't drink. So he kind of passed that on to his kids, and none of us smoke or drink. But it's so I've
Yeah, having a good attitude, doing things you love, and help people along the way. Those
absolutely,
are all huge things. Those are huge. So,
absolutely.
if people want to track you down, just in summary, where's the best place for them to track you down? And if they want
So
to
they go to
find, yeah,
trifectalight.com. Are you seeing my hand?
got it. We got it, Doc. Yeah.
You go to trifectalight.com, go to the contact us page, and I told you there's a place where you can find another location. You can also ask us about buying it, but then underneath that is just the contact us page or
Hmm.
section, and you just put in, get this to Dr. Rothschild and ask me any questions you'd like. This is what I do all day long. I do recommend you get this book. It's pretty good. It's at Amazon. Um, You can get it as a Kindle, as an Audible, or you can get the book itself. In fact, Dr. B, if you can send me your address, I'd like to send you a free copy of that.
Awesome. Love it. I'll read it up on my trip coming up. So that'll be give me something fun to do. And yeah, Doc, thanks so much for joining me. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot, and I hope everyone listening, like I always say, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and learn and take care of yourself. As a doctor, I'm telling you, you don't wait till your engine blows up. Like, take care of yourself. Just do little things. Do your red light, do your cold, whatever you enjoy doing. Go for hikes, go look at the beach, throw rocks in the pond. I don't care what you do, but find something you enjoy and dedicate yourself to things, and keep an open mind to look at these things and go, I'll go try it 6 times, right? See what happens. You got chronic back pain, your knee hurts, you got, sciatica, go give it a shot and see what happens. You might lose a couple of bucks maybe, but it can change your life, and you can be a lot happier and get metabolically healthier. So Doc, thanks again. Have a great weekend. Thanks for joining me on this Friday.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can get this out soon.
It's been my absolute pleasure. You take care, all right?
All right, Doc. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode. We greatly appreciate your support. We would greatly appreciate a positive thumbs up on all of the platforms like iTunes and Spotify or wherever you're listening. And we just thank you for our Patreon supporters. We greatly appreciate your help in getting this message out. We think there's a lot of important information, and hopefully this helps you. Have a great day, and thank you for listening, and thank you for your support.